The systematic approach of instructional design attempts to cover a complete cycle of steps and address all the relevant factors in the project. This is why it took us so many hours analyzing the needs, defining the goals, identifying the factors from the design context, the characteristics of our learners, and creating learning maps for the instructional content. It also takes us hours to defining the learning objectives and creating the assessments, as well as developing instructional strategies and the materials. The good thing with the systematic approach is that it helps ensure we're not missing anything important for the instructional design project. Also, it helps us plan the timeline and manage the different stages of the project, since we already know the different tasks and a segment of processes that need to be addressed. For example, it's very clear that with the systematic approach, we're going to have to conduct a needs assessment. We will need to analyze the context in our learners. So we have a pretty clear idea what the specific tasks are if we use the systematic approach for instructional design. However, as many of you have noticed, the systematic approach is hard. It is comprehensive and it is very complicated. And if you feel tedious or even overwhelmed, it is not uncommon at all. As I said earlier, I felt exactly the same way when creating the process guide for developing instructional plans. But hopefully, with more practice, you will be more confident using this systematic approach in your projects. And another thing I want to bring up is that many of you may have already noticed that we keep revisiting the challenges and the goals when we work on our instructional design projects. And during these iterations, we will edit these components and sometimes even make major revisions. So regarding these iterations, I just want to share that I myself was an instructional designer before my current role, and I think I can say that this is exactly what instructional designers do. Always keep in mind what the challenges are, what the goals are, and always try to refine them to ensure we are focusing on the issues and the challenges that do require instructional design solutions. For me personally, I think this is probably one of the most difficult tasks for instructional design, which is to identify the challenge and frame it appropriately so that it's clear instructional design can be the solution or at least a part of the solution. And for many of us as instructional designers, we'll have to challenge ourselves. Are we even asking the right questions? Are we focusing on the right problems? And are we framing the challenges and the problems appropriately so that instructional design is applicable and worthwhile? So this is something we will have to keep reflecting on as we work on our instructional design projects. Now let me go back to this slide, and I just want to say all of you should be very proud of yourselves. You now have already had some hands-on experience applying the systematic approach to analyze, to plan, and design solutions to an authentic problems in your own settings. And you should be very proud of that. And I hope you will feel more prepared for addressing similar situations in the future. And additionally, I hope you feel more confident in making decisions about when and how to use the systematic approach in real-world scenarios. And remember, not every single situation would require a systematic process of analysis and planning. There are often many constraints and many parameters we'll have to consider in authentic settings. And sometimes the systematic approach is appropriate and worthwhile. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes maybe only a portion of the systematic approach is applicable. So as instructional designers, we'll have to constantly evaluate, analyze, and identify the most effective and feasible solution to the problems.